In patch 6.1, we learn a lot about the sinners, their motives, their past, and their goals. But among all that information, there's one detail that stands out, something that might even be a spoiler for future story events. I'm talking about Vedrfolnir's role in the fall of Khaenri'ah. In this breakdown, I'll go over the theory that he might have been the cause of the catastrophe, that he opened the portal for Tholindis and pushed Rerir toward joining the sinners. And, as always, Lily is here. Don't forget to subscribe, drop a like, grab something to snack on, and let's go. Vedrfolnir is Dainsleif's older brother, one of the 5 sinners, and a seer capable of seeing the future. He appears in Rerir's memory space in a very strange way. Rerir hears a persistent voice in his head telling him to stay away from Tholindis, to be more cautious, to grow stronger. Over time, he realizes that the voice belongs to Vedrfolnir. The voice tells Rerir, "Even darkness must follow its own laws, but you cannot save everyone." To which Rerir responds, "You've been whispering in my ear for days, Vedrfolnir. What do you want? Are you trying to break me? Before, your voice was unclear, but now I know exactly who it belongs to. It's you." Later during the interrogation scene in the prison, Rerir tries to figure out what those warnings meant. But Vedrfolnir claims he's hearing the same voice, a voice that steals your mind, earns your trust, and drives you insane. Then Rerir says, "I know it's your voice in my head, urging me to see how the world is changing, to seek strength to protect the ones I love. You show me the catastrophe, but you don't show me how to avoid it. Why? Why are you doing this?" To which Vedrfolnir replies, "My voice? In your head? Ha ha ha. So you hear it too. The voice that steals your mind, wins your trust, and pushes you into madness." At first glance, it seems like the Abyss is behind all this. It can imitate human voices, so it's entirely possible that Rerir was hearing Vedrfolnir's voice twisted by the Abyss. But there are inconsistencies. If the Abyss wanted to break Rerir psychologically, it would have been more logical to imitate the voice of Tholindis, or the voices of those he killed. Why Vedrfolnir specifically? And whose voice was Vedrfolnir himself hearing? My theory: the voice Rerir hears isn't the Abyss. It's Vedrfolnir himself, from the future. Some of the evidence is a bit speculative, but let me explain. The main argument centers on Vedrfolnir's connection to time. According to the description of the artifact Hallowed Fetters, sublimation from the Sinner's Weapon series, Vedrfolnir is somehow tied to the attribute of time. This might give him the ability to interact with past events, to cross timelines and influence them. For comparison, think of Venti. His power, which is also linked to time, allowed him to cast Mare Javari outside the timeline entirely. So why couldn't Vedrfolnir possess a similar ability? It sounds completely plausible. There's also this line attributed to Dainsleif, but quoted in the text as though it comes from Vedrfolnir. However, he isn't called the Visionary there, like Rerir and Skirk call him. Instead, he's referred to as a self-proclaimed prophet, basically meaning someone who claims to understand fate. And that opens up an interesting possibility. What if Vedrfolnir doesn't actually see the future? What if he's simply repeating what he already heard from himself from the future? These Chinese characters mean, "The future saves the past." They echo a quote from Ike in Vera's Melancholy, where Saki asks him to turn back time to save Vera. This phrase can be interpreted as a rule or law governing the flow of time itself. Following that logic, Vedrfolnir may have acted in the past in an attempt to change or save his own timeline. A voice distorted by the Abyss. Rerir doesn't immediately recognize Vedrfolnir's voice. It sounds warped, as though refracted through the Abyss itself. On one hand, you could assume Vedrfolnir is using abyssal power to send his voice into the past. On the other, the Abyss might have been helping him hide from Rerir, while the Vedrfolnir of that timeline still hadn't been imprisoned. In other words, Vedrfolnir didn't want Rerir to recognize him too early. After all, seeing how deeply the king had fallen, Vedrfolnir tries to stop him, warning that the path he's taking will lead Kaenri'ah to destruction. But the warning backfires. Irmin blinds the seer and throws him in a cell. At first glance, it seems like punishment, but if you look closer, it's just one part of a larger plan. After this, Dainsleif turns to his comrades the Sinners for help. Together, they storm the palace and ignite a large-scale uprising. At Dainsleif's request, Rerir is tasked with freeing Vedrfolnir from the dungeon, while the others hold off the royal army. During their meeting, Rerir demands answers about the voice speaking in his head and the mysterious prophecies that keep following him. But Vedrfolnir avoids giving a straight answer, and here the loop closes. Vedrfolnir repeats to Rerir the exact same words he had already heard from the voice in his mind. This becomes a hint. Soon, Rerir will have the chance to gain the power of the Abyss. In truth, Vedrfolnir had already been subtly pushing him toward this, telling him that he needed more strength, hinting at his plan to unite the sinners. After this, Rerir frees Vedrfolnir, and in his usual calm manner, Vedrfolnir advises him to visit the Magisterium University, the place where Tholindis worked. But this exact advice sets the next tragedy in motion. At the end of their conversation, Vedrfolnir clearly implies that their paths will cross again very soon, which points to his involvement with Tholindis. Vedrfolnir says, "I'm sure we'll meet very soon, Rerir." On his way to the Magisterium University, Rerir encounters rift wolves and realizes, most likely, Rhinedottir is behind them. Vedrfolnir and Rhinedottir against Tholindis. Vedrfolnir understands perfectly. For Rerir, nothing else matters. Everything he cares about is centered on Tholindis. If she stayed by his side, he would never join the sinners. He would choose a peaceful life over a path that leads into darkness. So Vedrfolnir removes the obstacle. He directs Tholindis into the portal, effectively condemning her. After that, Rerir is left with no choice to get back what he lost. He joins the sinners, seeking even greater power. Rerir heads to the palace to obtain the power of the Abyss, and there he is greeted by Rhinedottir. "You made it, you made it." This short line says a lot. It implies that Rhinedottir already knew the plan and that her creatures had been holding Rerir back until the portal was ready. Over time, Rerir realizes the truth. Vedrfolnir and Rhinedottir were working together. They were the ones who orchestrated Tholindis' disappearance. This is why, in the Moon Eye quest, when he rebuilds his body and regains his memory, he speaks the names Vedrfolnir and Rhinedottir alongside Tholindis, the names of those who changed his fate forever. This is the second part of my current analysis, and here I argue that Vedrfolnir not only gathered the sinners, but also masterfully engineered the fall of Kaenri'ah itself. If Vedrfolnir's plan was to destroy Khaenri'ah, then the Traveler's twin would have been his greatest obstacle since they originally intended to fight for Khaenri'ah. However, everything changed after their encounter with Derideth, the one who held the key to the hibernation chamber. After seeing it, the twin abandoned their original mission and instead began searching for their sibling, hoping to leave the planet forever. But that would have been impossible without the time paradox, the one supposedly triggered by Istaroth. And I say supposedly for a reason, because I believe Vedrfolnir was the true architect of that paradox. Let's look at the evidence. Why it couldn't have been Istaroth? First of all, Istaroth, like the other shades, is forbidden from acting against the laws set by the heavenly principles. During the Cataclysm, Ronova cursed the pure-blooded citizens of Khaenri'ah with immortality, essentially establishing her own rules. Time's mockery. The twin describes the paradox as Istaroth's mockery, a cruel joke played at their expense. But would Istaroth really stop time just to make fun of one person? And if she had actually been observing both travelers all this time, why didn't she intervene when Kaenri'ah overlapped with Natlan? Who actually stopped time? And more importantly, if Istaroth was the one who froze time, why didn't she react when Asmodee's Stargate appeared? The Shades don't know where Asmodee is now. They're still searching for her across different spaces. So who did it? Several details contradict the Abyss twins' claim that Istaroth stopped time. But there is one name that fits this puzzle perfectly. Vedrfolnir. Think about it. He had the knowledge, the motives, and the time attribute needed to manipulate it. By creating this paradox, Vedrfolnir effectively removed both twins from the equation, ensuring that the Traveler's sibling could no longer interfere with his plan or fulfill Nicole's prophecy of the Savior. Right now, Asmodee's current whereabouts remain unknown. However, we do know she seems to have betrayed the other Shades and sided with a new master. But who exactly is this mysterious figure? We don't have official confirmation, but based on everything discussed so far, there's a strong chance that this new master might be Vedrfolnir. At the moment when the present-day twins finally meet, time suddenly stops. Watching from the shadows, we briefly see Asmodee's 3-star gate flicker, but not Asmodee herself. This detail feels intentional. 2 possibilities emerge. Vedrfolnir wanted her to witness this meeting, or Asmodee was spying on the siblings. It's possible that the only person who truly foresaw the fall of Kaenri'ah was Nicole. People believe she possessed knowledge of all the world's secrets, that's why she was called the Sage. But, unlike the sinners, Nicole tried to prevent the catastrophe. She even predicted that one day a savior would appear, referring to the traveler's sibling. A long time ago, the sage passed through my village. People believe she was truly all-knowing. The sage said that the end of the world was coming, but as that day approached, a savior would appear to us. And if Vedrfolnir caused the fall of Khaenri'ah, then Nicole, on the contrary, tried to save it. Maybe their paths will cross again, a meeting between 2 seers looking at the same past, but from opposite sides of time. Rerir, Tholindis, Rhinedottir, and the other sinners, all of them were pieces in someone else's game. A game Vedrfolnir played across 2 timelines at once. And if his voice truly came from the future, one question remains: what was his real motive for interfering with the past? Well, we'll probably never know. I'll leave that question to you. Share your thoughts about this theory. And as always, this was Lily. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a like, and I'll see you soon.